Hi. So today I wanted to talk about how we make things worse than what they actually are. I want to talk about this because I feel like it's quite important. We go through certain things in life. We go through certain pain. We go through certain emotions, certain heartaches. And yes, of course, it's painful. Yes, of course, it hurts. But what we tend to do is add extra hurt on top. We add extra chili to the sauce. So something may be, whoa, 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 it's very hot, it's very intense, it's very painful, but we add extra on top. How do we do this? How do we do this? Well, we tend to do this because of the way we perceive it and our perception of what we're experiencing. Now, sometimes it's very helpful for us to just have reassurance that what we're going through is not as bad as what we think. We could have something happen to us, something occurring to us, and we throw this extra judgment on top of it, this extra perceptual label, which actually makes the situation worse than what it actually is. And yes, of course, if something's painful, it's painful. We're acknowledging that. We're not being in some delusional state where we're seeing pain as something that's pleasurable. And of course, there's a space to do that and step into alchemy where you can do that. But I don't want to talk about this today in the video. I want to talk about acknowledging your pain, acknowledging what you're experiencing, that yes, it hurts, but I'm not going to make it hurt more. I'm not going to throw an extra perceptual hurt from my perspective. I'm not going to judge it. I'm not going to make the scenario worse than what it actually is. And this is what we tend to do. This is what I've done. This is what I've seen many people do, is they make things so much more out of proportion. They just blow it up. And it's just such a simple thing. It's such a minute thing, and we enlarge in it. We make it so crazily huge. And I thought about this today because some people say they might get annoyed by a certain sound, and people don't like, say, someone hammering a nail. Tuk, tuk, tuk. And you could be trying to meditate, you're trying to have a relaxation period, and that hammering of the nail is annoying you. Someone drilling a hole in the wall. You could hear a bus driving past and it's annoying you. But then when we hear the sound of a beautiful music, we hear the sound of the rain, we hear the sound of birds, we like those sounds. We enjoy those sounds. We actually allow those sounds to come through. But we push away those other sounds. We push away the sound of the bus or the drill or the hammer. And at the end of the day, both the sounds of the hammer and the drill and the bus and the sounds of the birds and the rain and the beautiful music, they're, at the end of the day, both just sounds. They're both just sounds. And they're not necessarily good or bad, but we create this perceptual label onto them. And of course, those other sounds, we don't like them. We don't like the hammer, we don't like the drill, we don't like the bus, because they're not natural sounds. They're not organic. But we like the birds chirping, we like the rain. And we don't even mind the music, because the music has this naturalness to it. It feels more comfortable. You know, you could be playing certain very synthetic music like rap music or some type of rock music, and you know, some people love that, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but that may come across as affecting you. So obviously the style of music that you play is going to have an effect too. But if you're playing music that is a little bit more organic and it's more calming, and it could be some natural instrument, it could be a nice voice. You know, if you're listening to the birds chirping, you're listening to the rain. We like these sounds because they're more natural, they're more calming. But what happens is we put this extra meaning onto it. Oh yes, I like the rain. And you know, there might be a certain percentage of people that don't like the rain. They might find the rain annoying and not relaxing. And that's obviously due to them attracting that through their perception. So again, on both ends of the spectrum, someone could perceive the rain as being quite annoying. They can perceive certain music as being quite annoying due to their perception. So you could be listening to rock and you love it. But then someone like me puts on a rock song and I'm like, oh, it hurts me. It's hurting my chakras. I'm not resonating with this frequency. I'm not enjoying this song. It's annoying me. But what happens is something annoys us initially. Something has an effect on us. That's correct. We don't like to hear buses 24/7. We don't like to hear hammers 24/7. It's not natural. But what happens is our perception on top of that annoying sound makes it even worse. Our own judgment on top of it. So we make the scenario worse than what it actually is through our perception, through the way that we perceive it. So I realized if we just can allow a sound to be a sound, it may still be annoying, it may still not be something that you choose. You can obviously choose to be in a park or in nature where you hear the birds, where you hear, you know, the wind and you hear the trees and you're hearing nature and the quiet. Or you can choose to put yourself in the city where you can listen to the buses, where you can listen to the cars and the beeping and all that type of stuff and the bar music. So you can still have a choice in the matter, but sometimes we don't have a choice. Sometimes we're just in certain scenarios. We hear planes, we hear buses, we hear someone doing construction work. And that sound annoys us. Yes, it annoys us. We don't like it. But we don't have to add extra spice. We don't have to add extra annoyance on top of it to make it worse and worse and worse and blow it out of proportion. So how many times in your life are you blowing things out of proportion? Like through your perception, you're making something very tiny, not a big deal, into a bigger and bigger and bigger deal. How many times in your life are you doing this? That's why the sound, tuning into the sound analogies kind of came to me, because, you know, I'm very sound sensitive. And I would get annoyed at certain sounds. Years ago, I would really, really dislike sounds. And I would go to meditate, and I'm ready, and I'm in this peaceful Zen state, and then I hear the lawnmower going. I'm like, fucking lawnmower. Annoying me. Don't like it. And I'd be kind of fighting with the lawnmower, fighting with the sound. And it's like, I realized it's a fight that I can't win. It's a fight that you can't win. That you need to just, I couldn't, you know, if I was to get up and tell the guy, hey, can you turn your lawnmower off? But like, really, he's got every right to mow his lawn. So I can't do that. I can't walk away, which I can choose another environment. But then I realized when I did this, I would choose, oh no, I don't like this environment. It's got a lot of sound, and I'm choosing another environment that's quiet. I would notice that the sound would still follow me. That sometimes we can't avoid that because it's like a test. The universe is like, doesn't matter where you go, buddy, you can't hide. There's still going to be things that annoy you. You could be in a monastery, there's still things that are going to trigger you. You could be on retreat somewhere, there's still things that are going to trigger you. Out in nature, doesn't matter where you are, those things are still going to follow you. So you can't change it. I can't walk away from it, so I have to accept it. And I realize this because I'm fighting with the sound. I have to accept it. I have to let it be there. And I have to almost let it be there like it's okay for it to be there. And this created a big transformation, a big shift, because when I allowed it to be there, I accepted it. It didn't annoy me that much. I was like, it's not that bad. It's just a lawnmower. I can still do my thing. I can still meditate. It's not going to annoy me. I'm just choosing not to overly attend to it. I'm choosing not to give it so much of my focus. I'm choosing to bring my focus into other areas. And sometimes you may have noticed that the birds may be chirping while there is annoying sound. There's beautiful music playing while there's annoying sound. The rain's dropping while there's an annoying sound. And you can choose, where do you want to put your focus there? On the annoyance or on what's peaceful? You can put your focus on the hammer and how annoyed you are at the hammer. You can put your focus on, oh, it's raining, it's beautiful. Yes, it's there, but it's less intense because you're choosing to focus here. You're accepting them. When you resist them, you're like, I don't want those annoying sounds. I don't want it. I don't want that painful emotion. I don't want those disgusting thoughts. You know, when we resist that experience, it makes it worse. When we're in resistance, we make it 10 times worse, 100 times worse than what it actually is. So this was huge when I allowed myself to just accept that lawnmower. I realized that without the lawnmower, there wouldn't be beautiful sounds. That we need an annoying sound for there to be a beautiful sound. That without the hammer drill and the bus being annoying, what would the beauty be in the trees and the rain and the birds and that beautiful music? What would beautiful music be without horrible music? Subjectively speaking, of course. So I accepted that the lawnmower is necessary because there needs to be things that trigger us. There needs to be contrasts, duality, polarities, good and bad. We need to have that so that we have certain structures in place, so we have certain understandings in this world. And then when that lawnmower passed, because eventually the lawnmower ends, it doesn't last forever. The lawnmower stops, and what was left was the silence. And I gave thanks to that lawnmower because it allowed me to appreciate the silence. It allowed me to notify the silence a lot more. And then I realized that the silence was always there. The silence was always there holding every sound. That the louder the sound got, the louder the silence got. And then when the sound was removed, the more noticeable the piece of the silence was. That the higher the tone, the higher the annoyance. And then when the annoyance was cleared, what was left was the amount and the intensity of silence that had to hold that intensity of sound. So this is where I tuned into silence. And I tuned into silence more because I noticed that even though there were more intense sounds, that the silence was always there, and I could choose to be with the silence instead of the sound. And of course, sometimes when the sound goes, that's when it's easier to notice the silence, but we can actually tune to the silence within every sound. So this is very profound, and you know, I use this sound analogy to give you great context of what I'm talking about today. But I'm getting to the point, the moral of the story is to not make things worse than what they are. That things are quite simple. You know, if you get a fine, don't make a big deal out of it. Pay it. Let it go. If something happens, if there's a scenario that happens and you fighting against that scenario is not going to help, then why fight? Why do something that's completely impossible to achieve? And this is almost what we do. We fight with things that we can't change. We resist things that we can't move away from. So you go through, you go through the scale. If you can't change it, go try and change it if it's annoying you. If you can't change it, move away from it. Go. And then you'll notice, okay, maybe that thing may follow me wherever I go, because we are a reflection. What we see is a reflection of our internal world. So often certain things that trigger us and piss us off will follow us around, because wherever we go, they go. Because again, the external world is a reflection of your internal world. So if you can't change it, you can't walk away from it. You have to accept it at times. You have to accept it, allow it. Let it be there. Don't make the sound more annoying than what it is. Don't make your pain in your body more worse than what it is. And this is often what a lot of people do. They give themselves anxiety, stress, they get depressed. All types of extra problems that they generate through them experiencing something. And the way that they perceive it is just creating that extra pain, making it worse. So try and remove the judgment of it. Next time you hear that buzz or that annoying sound, let it be there. Try not to add extra pain to the bus. Try not to add extra pain to your emotion, to your sadness or your anxiety or whatever you're experiencing. Or if it's a situation, try not to add extra to it. Don't add on top. It doesn't need anything added. And from that experience, this is very transformative and so helpful when you're going through difficult times, when you're going through painful experiences, heavy emotions, if you're going through a healing journey, things come up. Sit with it. It's enough on its own. It's enough on its own. It hurts. Yes, it hurts. We don't have to pretend that it doesn't hurt. It hurts. From an egoic perspective, it hurts for sure. It's meant to hurt. But that may not necessarily mean that it's bad for you. That if something hurts, it may actually be something beneficial for you. You just can't see it right now. So sometimes we don't understand. And it helps if we can maybe seek some help and support, some other advice, so that we can get reassurance that we're okay. This has been very helpful for me on my path when I've experienced certain symptoms of spiritual awakening, certain emotions, certain things that I've gone through that I didn't understand. I perceived them as being wrong because they hurt, or they didn't feel comfortable, or they weren't familiar. Key word here, familiar. They were very unusual. So I perceived them as being bad. I created worse. I made the energy worse than what it was because I added on top. I made it worse. And then when I went and, seek support and asked someone about what I'm experiencing, and they reassured me that, it's actually a good thing. It's okay. That what you're going through is a part of the process. So that perception, their belief and their idea of it, and their understanding helped me understand it more. Gave me that reassurance and actually helped me to see what I was experiencing as something okay. And it lightened the load. It lightened the load, and whatever I was experiencing actually shifted, almost alchemized, just through them telling me that it's something beneficial. And I realized, wow, like what was left when I shifted my perception was just like a tiny, minute sensation of energy. I'm just experiencing an energy in my body. It's not good, it's not bad, it just depends on the way I want to see it. It may feel unusual, it may feel a bit weird. Some people used to tell me they used to feel pain in their heart. And you think, oh my God, something's wrong. And they'd go to doctors and specialists. And then I would just say, your heart chakra's opening. And just those words created the energy in that chest to just go, oh. And then all of a sudden you're seeing that energy. Oh my God, that energy in my chest. It's great. Like this is, my heart's opening. It's just kind of a growing pain. Like when you go to the gym and you strengthen yourself, you're creating stress in the muscles. And it's a pain, but you're associating the pain as good. Like when you're sore after the gym, you're not like, oh, oh, maybe just very rare, some people do complain still, but you're complaining, you're sore, but you're not like, oh my God, this is very bad. This is sore, I'm so sore, but it's so good. Like, people like that feeling of being sore. And so very similar to when you're going through dark and annoying, painful, unfamiliar energies in your body, if you perceive them as being something beneficial, something helpful, something that's for your benefit, even if it's unfamiliar, even if it's a bit weird, even if your ego is thinking, it's a bit painful, something's wrong, something's not right, if you start to perceive them like that, you'll notice a huge shift, just like the gym analogy. When you're at the gym, same thing. The pain's good pain, so you're like, yeah, it's painful, but it's kind of like nice. After you do a big leg session, or you're doing your back and your buys, and the next day your buys are sore and you can't bend your arms, they're like so sore, but it's like you're not adding extra. You know that it's a good thing. You know that it's a part of the growth. So it's like a pain that you enjoy. So we can have this with any type of pain that we experience, any type of energy in our body that's annoying, that we don't like, just like the sound. We don't like it, but if we perceive it to be okay, we accept it, we allow it, the sound isn't as bad anymore. It's just a sound. And of course, we prefer to feel more natural things. We prefer to feel things that don't hurt us. That's natural. Of course, we like to experience nice sounds. We like to experience pleasure in the body instead of pain. We like to experience things that are familiar, a familiar sound and a familiar energy or emotion. So it can be helpful to have this reassurance, to know that whatever you're going through is okay, and the way that you perceive it is needing to be probably changed. And I just leave you with this today. Are you making things worse than what they are? It comes back down to that simple question, a simple inquiry, because often things aren't as bad as we think. And we actually make things so much worse than what they are through our own perception, through our own beliefs, through our own conditioning, through what other people tell us. If doctors or people of authority figures tell us something, we tend to believe them. People with experience. So it can be helpful to sometimes get a second opinion and to not make things worse than what they are. Sometimes things are just simply what they need to be. They just are. And we go through them. But in my experience, it's been helpful to perceive things as beneficial, even if it's difficult, even if it's painful, even if it's annoying, we don't want it. It's best to just perceive it as something beneficial for us. And that often the more we go into something that's annoying us, the more we can contrast and flip into something that isn't annoying us. And that without those difficult and painful experiences, we wouldn't have those enjoyable and pleasurable experiences. So we need to give thanks to them. Without them, they wouldn't exist. They would not exist without them. So without the annoying sounds, remember, we don't have those amazing, enjoyable sounds. We wouldn't know the enjoyable sounds to be any different from anything else. If every sound was enjoyable, how would we know the difference? How would we know that the sound is enjoyable if we didn't have a sound that's annoying? How would we know? What would we compare it to? So what do we compare our experiences that we go through, our painful experiences? If it's not for them, then we wouldn't have pleasureful experiences. If we only experienced pleasureful experiences, we wouldn't know them to be pleasurable, because everything would be the same. There'd be no good and bad. There's no contrast. There's nothing to compare it to. There's nothing to compare it to. So we need that contrast. We need the duality. We need things that annoy us and things that we enjoy. But if you can come from a higher perception, you'll see that we make things to be worse than what they are, and we can make things better than what they are through our perception. So we can actually change something that's really annoying, transform it into something that's okay and something that we can deal with. So hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching if you watched the whole way, and I hope this gave you a great insight on making things worse in your life when they're not that bad. Peace.